What's shaking, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more punk rock, and we're back with some more Subhumans. And in fact, we're back with some more live Subhumans. Gonna go back to the album Live in a Dive. Came out 2004, I believe. Is that right? Yes, 2004. I used to have the vinyl for this. I mentioned it before. I had to sell a lot of punk rock vinyl a few years ago. Or I didn't have to sell that necessarily, but again, I had a large collection, but there was a point where just needed to have some more income because I was just out of grad school and so on. So yeah, I don't have the vinyl anymore. Nevertheless, thankfully, I still do have the CD. We're going to listen to a tune they did called All Gone Dead. I reacted to the studio album version of this. This is from The Day the Country Died, which is right here. It's also up here, which I don't think you can see. I have a bigger poster version. I used to have the vinyl for that as well. It's just a legendary album. I think in terms of their studio albums, it might remain my favorite. It's just like brilliant. Now, I mentioned it before, maybe my favorite release ever from Subhumans remains EP/LP. I just love all the tunes on that. I've heard some people say, oh, but it doesn't like have the same like continuity as their albums, which I respect that because there's clearly like thought that goes into like the sort of crafting of an album as a work of art in their albums. But like I said, EP/LP was the first thing I heard by them, so it just all the songs on that are like super nostalgic for me. Nevertheless, as I said, I do think The Day the Country Died is my favorite like studio album, and the opening tune, All Gone Dead, it's really memorable, and it like perfectly embodies their sort of sound, that sort of gritty kind of early 80s hardcore. Nevertheless, this version, as I mentioned, is the Live in a Dive version, which was recorded, I believe, at the Showcase Theater in Corona, California. It doesn't exist anymore, sadly. I went to see them a year after they put this out in 2005 at the same venue. They played some of the same songs, but also some different ones. They played Not Me, which is one of my favorites ever. But yeah, so the tune All Gone Dead, I sort of analyzed the lyrics and when I reacted to the studio version, so I'll be brief, but it's basically a hypothetical because this was recorded, Day the Country Died was 1983, 1 year before 1984, which, George Orwell's story was well read by that point, and the idea of this dystopian future was sort of like, a totalitarian, authoritarian government. It's sort of explored by this song, and it's saying, we're not far away from that, and, in this alternative future that we might find ourselves in, which on some level maybe we did, but, perhaps not as bad as this song suggested, but it's basically about, like, the banks will fail, and it's this, like, societal cataclysm, just a collapse, like rapid, bombs and wars, and indeed the song ends with, there will be fucking war. But yeah, basically it's a song about society collapsing and, sort of perfectly, ironically in 1984, and, the politicians were, sort of dragged out of office for corruption and so on, but now it's just, this like, hell's like scape sort of, anarchistic in a sort of colloquial sense where like only the strong people with guns and so on go around and dominate the streets, but it's this real dystopian vision for what might happen to England and the world at large in 1984, which again, this was 1 year before that. But like I said, this is the live version from 2004, so here we go. This is Subhumans, All Gone Dead from the Live in a Dive album on Fat Records, 2004.
Hi folks! 1, 2, 1, 2.
My tea is empty.
Two,
tragic.
1, 2, 2. First thing, we're going to record this for a live CD release. So, if you're going to sing along, singing tune.
Has like a fuller, like, richer sound than the original. Also, Dick's voice is low register. I mentioned it before. reduced to a pile of dust. No one, that's for damn sure. Yeah, I love it, man. When I saw them at that concert, it was not only sort of a, at that point, lifelong goal, or not lifelong, but, decade-old sort of goal of seeing them live fulfilled. But they really, like, shredded it. I mean, they sounded, just as good as they do here. And as I mentioned, like, I love the sound of their albums and sort of EPs from the early 80s. But it has that sort of kind of raw early 80s feel. The tunes on this album, and the ones that they did from back then, because there's also tunes from their album Internal Riot, which came out, or was about to come out. I think it came out like a year or so after. I'm trying to remember, because I remember when in 2005 when I saw them at the same venue, Dick talked about some of the songs, like This Year's War, like it had just been written. So I don't remember if it was like just released or if it was about to be released. But yeah, they did play some new songs as well. But the old songs that they played had like a fuller, more powerful sound than the original versions, which I really enjoy. Because again, nothing, I like a lot of different bands. I've seen a lot of different bands, and some of them, you love it, but maybe it doesn't sound quite as precise and on point as their studio stuff. But some of the bands I listen to really kill the live performances. And like I said, at that show, the Subhumans absolutely crushed it, as they do in this release. So let me know what you think. Let me know if that's one that you're very fond of as well. It's a few Subhumans fans out there. Shout out to you guys. And other than that, thank you for listening and watching. Have a good day. Have a good night. I'll see you next time. Peace.